Look at her. Beauty. Yeah, so we'll give it another 2 minutes or so before I go into my little spiel about the book. And I had some questions sent to me beforehand, so we'll go through those after I do a quick little reading. Please bear with me with the reading because I have, grade school flashbacks of that, like, it's your turn to read, and, you panic. And while I wrote this, I didn't pre-read it to myself, which I probably should have. So yeah, bear with me with that. I'm glad the cover sold it to you even before you read it. That makes me really happy. My pitch to the designer was literally, even if the book is terrible, I want people to buy it because of the cover. I know it's not terrible. I worked really hard on it. But that was the whole thing. I wanted people to pick it up before they were even sure, because they're like, it's pretty. So that was my whole thing. That and the color scheme. The rest of it, I was like, I don't know. But now, having this cover, I actually know exactly what the rest of the covers are going to look like. So, at least what I imagine they will look like. And I will pitch that to the designer. And I will try and stick with the same publisher throughout the entire series so that we retain continuity on every cover and every edition. If I have to print editions that are different sizes, I would lose my mind. I have severe OCD over my books, as some of you well know. Well, one of you well knows. And I have to have the same covers for everything. When they were not printing paperbacks and hardbacks at the same time, I literally, if I had a paperback, I would wait over a year until they printed paperbacks to read, like, the series that I loved. Sorry, series is plural. Is the hardback a naked hardback, or it's got a dust jacket, so it'll have the same cover as the paperback you see here. It'll have this cover in a dust jacket, and then you can take that off, obviously. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that the covers stayed the same. So I made sure that the dust jacket was the thing. I don't know what color the actual book will be, though, because I didn't get a pre-production printout beforehand. It's kind of like, oh, we'll see what happens. But considering the quality of this proof, I'm very confident that it'll be great. I did pay a terrible amount of money to get high quality in everything because I wanted everything to feel good in your hands. So that was my big thing with the books, because why print cheap quality? Like, I'm not making money. I wasn't gonna make money anyways. I might as well give you a great product. That was kind of how I felt about it. Also, it's just nice to have nice books. I wouldn't cheap out on a book to purchase it, so why would I cheap out on printing it? You know what I mean? Okay, so it's 10. Welcome to 2 of you so far. Apparently we lost someone already. But yes, so I'll do my little spiel again. I am Emmy Close, and I wrote Dawning of the Sun, which is now available for purchase basically everywhere except Indigo Books because they take too long to update their stuff. But it will be available on Indigo starting at the end of the month, I believe. It really just depends when they update their stuff. But they have a much longer vetting process than everybody else for whatever reason. So here we are. Yeah, every signed copy order comes with these. And, yeah. So, there's only 2. Oh, okay. How many people? Nobody people? Still there? Okay. Cool. Alright. Oh, I clicked a thing by accident. What did I do? Okay. How do I make this go? Technical difficulties, friends. Alright, so I guess we've only got 2 people. that's fun. Anywho, yeah, so a little about the book. It is a seafaring pirate adventure. And it's about Sol Vesper, who is a cutthroat female sailor who's just trying to work on a ship, but so the lore of the land is essentially that women are bad luck on ships because the 7 sea goddesses are jealous when women cross their seas. So if you are going to have a woman on board, generally the lore is that you need to give an offering to the goddesses to allow them passage without any problems. So women are essentially blamed for storms and squalls and sunken ships. So they don't like having women. And so Sol is a sailor. She's grown up on ships, and she's trying to find anyone who will take her because she is too old to pass for a little boy now. So she's going to the new colony. It starts with her on a ship, on a passenger ship, going to the new colonies of Artania, which is the large empire, and she's hoping that the superstition has died on that end, and it hasn't. So she's trying to find a ship, and then she comes across someone who looks exactly like her dead father. So she follows them and ends up on a pirate ship, and that's where the story begins. I'll read a little bit of that for you guys in a few minutes. Let's just see if anyone else chimes in. Thank you for the 2 of you that are hanging out with me. I was hoping for, at least 5 people, but here we are. Yeah, I guess I can keep talking. Yeah, so I will do a little reading for you here shortly. I'm actually going to read off my laptop, not out of the book, because I've actually made some changes since this proof was sent to me. Even on the first page, yeah, I'm bad. So hopefully the hardbacks get shipped soon. Let's see, where are we at? 5 minutes. Okay, you know what? Doesn't look like much, but I guess I'm reading to you too. I hope you enjoy. All right, bear with me as I read out loud. The wind brushed past her face, swift and bristling, as she gazed out over the sea. Her breath steadied as the salted mist filled her lungs. Her long, dark hair blew fervently in the wind, the sun illuminating streaks of bronze within its strands. The gentle slap of the waves against the rushing hull of the ship and the scent of deep, brined wood and seaweed brought a gentle, upward curl to her lips. A shout arose from the main deck behind her. Sol Vesper's jade eyes shot toward it, her face hardening as she spun around, hands ready at the hilts of her sabers, Letha and Uzi. It was merely the boatswain, barking orders at the crew. She watched as the sailors tended to their duties, many of them doing a piss-poor job of it. "The foresail is loose, you morons," she thought to herself, as the sailors scurried about, avoiding the passengers. The main deck was littered with hordes of people. Sol suppressed an eye roll as she watched the other passengers mill about like restless children, unaware of what to do with themselves. The ship had been at sea for over 3 months. The voyage across the Dahlia Ocean with the royal families from the royal family's homeland of Artania to the settled colonies of Barbacca took a toll on the average traveler. People were flocking to the new colonies to begin lives they hoped would be better than before, but few survived the journey. Sol put her weight on the railing of the ship. She leaned out over the water and let the wind take her body. "Oi!" one of the sailors called out to her. "Get back to the main deck. Can't be having any of y'all tumbling overboard." She glared back at him, but did as she was told. She ached for the day when she could work aboard a ship again, but there hadn't been a captain who would take her on as a crew member. The suspicion that female crew caused the plague of bad luck without constant offerings to the sea goddesses still circulated on the eastern shores of Artania, but the colonies were said to lack the old faith. Sol hoped that the superstition would die with the crossing to Barbacca, and a captain would take her on as the experienced sailor that she was. Her fierce appearance, olive skin, and piercing eyes provided her with a wealth of intimidation. Her lean frame was muscular, and her dueling skills were not to be trifled with. "Land ho!" screamed the Outlook from the crow's nest. A buzzing anticipation overwhelmed the passengers after more than 3 months aboard the ship. With death and sickness looming over them, Sol expected they all longed for land, if only to escape the smells that accumulated below deck. Her gaze shot towards the horizon, looking for her own salvation. Excitement and relief washed over her as the endless panorama of blues that had been the only view for months was now broken by the impending mass of land. The colonies were said to be filled with bustling harbors and prosperous businesses. After a slow approach, the ship eventually docked at New Port. All the passengers were herded from the main deck down the gangplank. Sol picked her pack up from where it lay on the deck and slung it over her shoulder. She ran a hand along the railing as she made to leave the ship. "Oi, girl, get moving. We ain't got all day to stand around watching you. Get!" Sol rolled her eyes at the rowdy sailor. "Thank fuck I'm done with this lot." She walked down the plank to the docks. The pungent smell of the hub town hit her like a wall. A mix of dead fish, baked goods, and sweat with a delicate overlay of flowers assaulted her. The harbor was filled with clamoring people and eager vendors. Fishermen stuck their catch out in front of anyone passing, urging them to buy. Women tried selling baked goods and flowers from baskets on their arms, desperation written on their faces. Children in tattered clothing ran amongst the people barefoot. Everyone looked half-starved. Sol wandered into town, where pubs and shops lined the main street, though it was less of a street and more an extension of the dock itself. The thick boards creaked under Sol's feet as she walked along the establishments that sat above the shoreline on stilts, doorways built up against the dock. The first inn she came across leaned a little to the right. The front door was solid oak next to an intricately patterned stained glass window. From the sound of rowdy drunks and smell of barley, it was clear where the taproom was. A sign hung at a tilt from the doorway. The empty bucket scrawled across it in white paint. Sol quickly stepped through the door as a speeding handcart filled with barrels clipped her heels as it passed. Once inside, she let her eyes wander. The walls were adorned with wooden molding... Sorry, guys. The walls were adorned with wooden moldings carved into waves dancing with ships along the ceiling. The wall to her left had 3 seascape paintings with depictions of the mystic race of Serani, the sea people. A woman with aquatic features and either tentacles or fins for legs was hidden somewhere along the waves or rocks in each painting. To her right was a large arch carved in the same mariner theme as the moldings. This led into the tap room, where the smell of beer and bread drifted into the foyer. Sol looked ahead to the front desk, where a stout little woman sat. She had aged eyes and thick sandy ringlets that hung loosely around her collarbones. By the look of her, she could deal with any uncooperative patrons if the need arose. Sol strode up to the desk as the innkeeper's prudent gaze took her in. "Can I help you, miss?" the innkeeper asked, raising a brow. "I need a room for a few nights. Can you accommodate me?" Sol casually leaned on the wood counter between them. "That all depends. Do you have the funds to be accommodated?" The innkeeper leaned forward, mirroring Sol. "As long as the price is reasonable, miss..." A smile lurked at the edge of the innkeeper's stern face. "Call me Teresa," the woman said, her own name with an ah of satisfaction at its end. She struck her hand out to the shake Sol's. "I can tell you're not going to cause me trouble. Come, I'll show you to your room." "Sol," she shook the innkeeper's hand firmly. "Sol?" Teresa asked, confused. Sol sighed. This happened too often. "No, Sol, as in that incomprehensible essence that outlives us all after death." She paused, and Teresa's expression showed no sign of understanding. "Or the bottom of your shoe?" "Ah, yes, right, this way, Sol." The innkeeper put far too much emphasis on the pronunciation, but at least it was right this time. Teresa waved a hand for Sol to follow as she led her to a narrow staircase just through the taproom's archway. Sol ascended the stairs behind Teresa, the woman's wide hips grazing the walls as she climbed. Once they reached the landing, a thin hallway continued before them, leading to 5 doors on either wall. Teresa led Sol into the second room on the left, dropping the key she had pulled from her apron onto the desk under the window. The room was small and cramped, with a cot-like bed stuck into the left corner. A modest wardrobe occupied the left wall, leaving little room for much else. Sol walked in after Teresa and looked out the window. The room overlooked the harbor. Fees 2 Commodores a night. I will take payment for tonight now, and every morning you decide to stay longer. Sound fine? Just fine. Sol reached into a small pouch that hung from her belt and produced 2 bronze coins, the size of acorns, imprinted with the imperial seal on one side and a decorative tricorn on the other. If you're needing anything else, just call down and ask. I'm always at the desk if I'm not at the bar. Do you know of any ship captains looking for an experienced sailor? There are always captains looking for sailors or two. Teresa looked Sol up and down with a raised brow. But you won't find much luck, my dear. Women are rarely seen in ships on our part of the world. I guess old superstitions have trouble dying, Sol sighed, a weary smile on her lips. That they do, dear, that they do. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask. Teresa smiled and walked out, leaving Sol to her thoughts. Sol looked out the window, taking in the harbor. The docks were littered with ships. There had to be a captain out there that had no time for superstition, one like her father. Sol took a deep breath, and a wave of grief overcame her as she exhaled. She missed her father. He was the only captain she would sail under if she could, but he had been killed in a mutiny by his first mate. The sun began to set over the rippling horizon, and Sol was worn out from her trip. Walking over to the wardrobe, she opened it up and found a mirror and wash basin built into the right side. She smiled and dipped her hands into the cool water, bringing it up to splash her face. She took the cloth that hung on the hook next to the mirror and dried herself off. Feeling slightly refreshed, she walked back over to the bed, placed Letha and Uzi on the floor within reach, and lay on her back. She stared at the ceiling, thinking of her father. She remembered his crinkly smile and his rough hands, the way those hands would cover her entire head when he would ruffle her hair. She recalled the way his vivid blue eyes would shine brightly in the sunlight, and how his embrace would always made her feel warm and safe in her core. Sol fingered the sun pendant at her chest, and she reminisced. Her father had given it to her mother when they were young and in love. Her mother apparently had placed it around Sol's neck a moment before she died from the complications of Sol's birth. It had not left her neck since. The bright sunlit color of its stone was so vibrant that it seemed to emanate a soft glow. It was the only thing she had left of her mother. Sol had spent just over 10 years on her own, learning to survive without selling herself or being sold. Luckily, her father had taught her all there was to know about sailing. She could complete every task aboard a ship by the age of 7. After she'd lost her father, she dressed to hide what she really was and became a cabin boy in the galley aboard many transport ships, all of which sailed the coasts of Artania. Eventually, the fact that she was becoming a woman proved difficult to hide. Once the captain discovered her, she was thrown off the ship at the next port, sometimes even sooner than that. Captains clung to the superstition that female crew caused a jealous rage in the 7 sea goddesses. It didn't matter that the goddesses were now thought to be long dead, if they had ever existed at all. Crews still paid tribute before taking on female passengers. Offerings were set in baskets and pushed out to sea. Some even dropped flowers into the waters halfway through their voyage to keep the goddesses appeased. Sol always scoffed at these men. What goddess of infinite power would care that a mere mortal woman traveled her waters? Regardless, the superstition had stuck, even though in all Sol's life she couldn't remember ever encountering a squall. Whew, okay, I'm gonna leave it there. That's like halfway through chapter 1. Hope you enjoyed my quick rambling reading. We have 4 people now. Hello. I loved it. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I feel like I read really fast, but nerves, I guess. So, for the few of you that have chimed in, I will get you the book as soon as it ships. I promise. As soon as I have stock. Which, hopefully I get an update this week on the hardbacks. But yes, the paperback should be in my possession by Friday. and then I will sign them and ship them out. As soon as the hardbacks are here, they will also be signed and shipped out. Each one comes with one of these. They're little bookmarks. I had them printed. There's actually 2 sides. That's right. I didn't cheap out. Okay, just kidding. So yeah, if you want to buy a signed copy, they're on my website. Unfortunately, you do have to pay for shipping because I am a broke author who just paid for publishing a book. So I cannot pay for your shipping, unfortunately. I wish that I could. If I could, I would, but that's unfortunate. Also, it is available currently on Amazon. You can purchase every ebook version on my website. If you go to my bookstore, I actually have links to every single retailer in case you don't want to buy a signed copy, which is totally fair. I do make more on the signed copies, and by more I mean by like $1. So like, not making a ton here. But I mostly just want you guys to read it. So please read it. And if you have, please leave a review on whatever website you like. Please tag me. I want to see it. I will share it. Even if you don't like it, I want to know. What did I do wrong? Tell me. Because I can only improve. I mean, I could get worse, but I don't think I'd let myself. So, so now that I'm done the reading, I'm going to go through a couple questions that were sent to me. I had a little, on my stories, I had some questions open, so I'll go through those and I'll answer those. And then you guys can ask me whatever questions you want, and I will answer them. As long as they're not super inappropriate, but I don't think this crew is going to do that. Okay. So the first question I got was, how long will the Aeternum series be? So, originally it was supposed to be 3 books, and then it became 4 books, and now it might be 5 books. So I'll go through how the books are sort of structured at the moment. So obviously this first one is your introduction to the world. Actually my lowest rated ARC reading review was, the biggest problem was I didn't have enough world building, which is like a great problem to have, by the way. You will get tons more world building in book 2, mostly because it kind of gave away too many secrets in the books. So I didn't want to do that. I love surprising you guys. I love giving you twists and turns. So there's a few in this book. A few that a couple of people have cursed me out on, which is fine. I actually love that. Feel free to yell at me for certain things that happen near the end. But book 2 is a lot more world building, and it has multiple points of view actually. So I do write in third person, obviously you listen to me read it, unless you're just chiming in. But book 2 actually, it's written, by the way. I'm just revising now. And it has 3 points of view. So it's not just Soul's story, it's Kurt Bade's story, who you will learn to love. He will be your new book boyfriend, I promise. So it's his point of view as well, and then a third point of view from a character you meet in the epilogue of book 1. I'm not going to tell you which one. There's 2 characters in the epilogue, and I'm just going to let it sit there. That way you have a surprise. But I love that character so much, so I can't wait for you guys to read that one too. But funds are an issue, so I have to wait until I make a little money to pay for the next one. Whether that be through my lovely day job or through sales, but here we go. Book 3 is actually, it crept up on me. So book 3 was supposed to be a continuation of Soul's story after book 2, but there was a 4th point of view I wanted to add in book 2, and it didn't quite work out. Like, it ended up being far more complicated than I intended. So it's actually Gwendolyn Deschen's book. It's all her point of view. So book 3 is actually technically book 2.5 because the timelines correspond. Book 2 and book 3 happen at the same time. But book 2, you're getting Soul's story and Kurt's story, while book 3, you get to find out what's actually happening within the Empire. And so book 2 is actually called Waning of the Moon, and book 3 will be called Eventide of the Crown. and that one is actually about Gwendolyn Duchenne, who is the Princess of Artania, who you meet in book 1 near, I would say, the last quarter of the book. And then the 4th book is sort of all the worlds colliding, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff about the gods in book 2, so you will learn kind of the political aspects of their world, and then how that affects the mortal world. And yeah, book 4 is just kind of like all the worlds collide, and I just haven't decided how that story's gonna play out yet exactly. Like, I know how it's gonna end, I just don't know exactly how it's gonna play out, because there's another character I need to add in, and I don't know if the timelines are gonna fit yet. So that's how the series is gonna go. That was a really long answer to a very simple question. Sorry. Question 2, what was your favorite scene to write? I don't know if it was my favorite, but it was definitely the easiest, was definitely when Soul meets Gwen, because Gwen being the princess. Gwen just, her dialogue poured out of me. Just like, I didn't even think about it. It was just stream of consciousness, and it was perfect. And I tweaked it obviously a little bit during edits, but when you meet Gwen, I hope you love her, and I hope that you're surprised. That's all I gotta say. I loved writing Gwen. She's so much fun. I already started writing book 3, and yeah, her dialogue just like rippled, like it just comes out of me with no effort whatsoever. What was your favorite character to write and why? So my favorite characters to write were actually Dirk and Jordan. They are the master gunners on the Wailing Wind, which is the ship, and I just love them. If you've already read the book, you love them too. There's no way you don't love them. So Dirk and Jordan are just fun and pithy, and I love writing their little quirky insults to each other. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Are you working on other projects? Okay, so obviously I'm working on the other books in this series, but I have a lot of projects on the horizon that I really want to work on, but I want to get this series out first. So I've got like a Victorian murder mystery, like Dexter meets like Jack the Ripper type situation with female leads, of course. But our female lead has a very dark past, and she has a lot of stuff to work through, and it's gonna have like a Grumpy and Sunshine dynamic as well, with one of her friends. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm really excited to write that one. I've also got a like a witchy sort of one-off where a girl is sacrificed to the forest, and basically she becomes the keeper of the forest, and there's a whole like familiar that she loves, and he kind of perpetuates a plot that she wasn't aware of and stuff like that. So that's my like witchy tale that I really want to write. I have a million other things in my head right now too. Like, I want to do a retelling of a Czech fairy tale because my heritage is Czech. That one is like about a water nymph kind of deal, but they're like dangerous and they drown people. I also want to do, like, I love fairy tales, so there's a lot of fairy tale retellings. I want to do a dystopian Beauty and the Beast retelling, but all the like cheesy stuff from the Disney movie where all like stuff comes to life. I'm actually just gonna make that AI robots, and I think that's gonna be so much fun. Just like little droids or like androids like wandering around doing your cleaning that look like candlesticks and stuff. I don't know. I'm still working through that one. But yeah, that one is more of a fun thing for me. I don't know how dark that'll get, but I mean, there's always a little darkness in my stuff. Yeah, I've also got, if anyone's a fan of Firefly, love Firefly. I do kind of want to do like an homage to Firefly with my own like space crew, and it's been in the back of my mind for a really, really long time, but it's more like jumping through portals into new dimensions and stuff like that. but with a crew very similar to the cast of Firefly, because I absolutely love that show and I must pay homage to it. Yeah, so those are just kind of the things I want to start working on, and hopefully some of those I could get an agent for. If not, I mean, I'll keep doing what I'm doing and keep trying to do my own thing. I'm very stubborn, so it's unlikely that anyone's gonna sway me just for sales. Anyways, how do you avoid writer's block? I don't. I just kind of let it simmer. Sometimes you just need to take your brain out of it. Like if you've got writer's block, work on something else. Go do something else. Clear your head. Like go, I don't know, watch a show. Listen to other stories. A lot of the time, my inspiration jumps out at me when I'm reading or when I'm looking at other people's art or something like that. So I find that just immersing yourself in other people's stories and creations just drags you right out of there. How long did it take you to write Dawning of the Sun? So I started when I was like 16, so 16 years. But it was off and on. Like I wasn't constantly writing. There were periods where I just abandoned it completely. But I always knew that this story needed to be told, and needed to be written. And this world I built up so much. If you want to check out the map I also have an official playlist. It's all linked on my website. If you go to the Aeternum series tab and then Dawning of the Sun, they're all listed under there, so you can take a look. The map is gorgeous. So I actually designed the map in mapping software, and then I had an artist redo it for the actual book. What is your favorite writing treat? Okay, so I try not to eat when I write, because mostly my brain just like, I'm very focused. OCD for you. So I forget to like drink and eat and do all that stuff. Normally I like having I'll set up a little cup of tea, and but most of the time I forget to even drink water. I just I'm out of my body and it doesn't exist until suddenly it's screaming at me. What is your writing process from start to finish? Okay, this is rough. So I usually do a general outline of the plot. So these are the plot points I want to hit, and I write them all out. And I'm like, okay, this is the path of the story. And then I'm more of a pantser, so I write, and then just whatever happens, happens. The characters usually lead the way. They have gotten me into some weird corners before, like, what? They lead me on weird paths. So a lot of the time I'll just let that happen, and then during the first revision, it's plot. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't work, and then I try and enter the characters' motivations and make sure that all that works. Once that's done, I go do another edit and I do detail stuff. Like, I wanted this person's eyes to be blue, not green, or whatever, and then I go through and I do all those little nitty-gritty details, and then we do line edits and that kind of thing. And I usually do a ton of rounds of those in between, like back and forth. I'll keep going, and then eventually when I'm confident with it, I'll give it to betas, and then betas give me their advice, and blah blah blah. From there, usually after the betas, that's when I got to the editor stage, when I decided to publish the book. And then my editor obviously goes through the whole process, and we did developmental edits and line edits and all that kind of stuff. And she helped a lot. She really, really leveled brought my writing to another level. So I was really happy with that. Yeah. Okay. I think that is the last of the online questions. So if anyone wants to shoot me some new questions, feel free. All right. So, the Witchy Cells. I'm glad you like the Witchy novel. A lot of people, I mentioned it to, are like, write that one next. I'm like, we'll see. Yeah. Any questions for me? I will. Oh, there's a new face. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions for me, feel free to jump in with those. I'm done with the questions that were sent to me. We're just gonna do the spiel again. So this is Dawning of the Sun. It is now available for purchase everywhere except for Indigo, because Indigo takes too long to to update their database. I got a question. What do you estimate your timeline will be for releasing the other books? Okay, so thanks, Em. I'm glad you're excited to read it. So I really want to publish within the next 2 years for book 2. So the whole publishing process from start to finish with my publisher takes a year. So as soon as I pay them a bunch of money, it takes a year. Right now I do not have the funds for book 2, and I'm also not really ready to give it to anybody. I need to do a bunch of edits. So I'm hoping that in 2 years I will have that one published. I will try, like, if I'm low on funds and I really want to get her done, I'm going to try and do a pre-order Kickstarter. Obviously with some incentives, and then if you want to, like, donate extra, we'll deal with that later. But I will try, I am trying to look for an artist to commission to do, like, character portraits. So that way with the Kickstarter I can offer character portraits and different stuff like that. So that is on the horizon, hopefully. Hopefully I don't need the Kickstarter, and between royalties and sales and whatever, I can publish the next one. But it is a big investment. It is a lot of money, and I don't have that right now. So as soon as I revise this, which I want to get the revisions done on book 2 fairly soon, so that way I can start focusing more on writing book 3. But once that's done, yeah, so hopefully within 2 years, and then obviously I want to try and do it every year to release one, but, it all depends on funds and my own timing, because I also do have a full-time job. So I'm trying really hard to fit it all in, but sometimes Michelle gets real tired, guys, so she needs a break. But I do love doing this, so I'm hoping that, like, this first one is 2 years, and then after that it just keeps rolling, and it's a year, like every year, until they're all out. I may take a little hiatus after book 3 to write another book. So the sort of Victorian mystery, it does have fantastical elements in it, by the way, so like powers and stuff, which are more science fiction than fantasy, but I'm really excited to write that one, so I might take a hiatus from this series to write that one, because it's just been burning inside of me for a little while, and I really need to get it out. Which some of you may not want to read because it's going to be kind of dark and explicit. But anyways, yeah, so that's my timeline, sort of. I guess I only sort of answered your question, but there it is. Yeah, any other questions? Feel free to ask, guys. I am an open book. Like this. See? I'm not funny, it's okay. It may not be explicit in the way you want. Sorry, but that's okay. No, yeah. I'm very excited to write that one. I actually started writing it as soon as it came to me, because it just, like, it was angering my brain, so I went and wrote the first few pages. Yeah, my brain gets angry a lot. And a lot of characters get mad in my head because they're like, excuse me, it's my turn. Listen, it's not your turn yet. Trying to explain what goes on in here is just it's not a good idea. I'm sorry. I'd scare literally everyone away. Alright, any other questions? Detail about the world, because I love it. The world building is so much fun. Also, oh yeah, so in the book, you do have a pronunciation guide at the back, just in case you're like, what is this word? I did, thanks Leah, I did add a pronunciation guide, so if you're like, what is this woman trying to write down, look in the back. I made sure that all the names are in there, and they're listed by, actually let me just, it's in here, why don't I open it up? Yeah, so it's listed, it's got characters, and then it's got places, body of water, and then the miscellaneous kind of words in the different languages. I've added, same with like her sabers, Letha and Uzi. Yeah, and then I've got the list of gods. So It's a little spoilery for the List of Gods. Not a lot. It's just that there's a huge pantheon, more than I mention in the actual book. So if you are curious, you know, obviously go through the List of Gods. But I think the only gods we really talk about are the sea gods, the spring goddess, and the goddess of the underworld, which is actually called the Nethervale. Two mortals who are actually called the Frail because the gods think they're frail, and I thought that was fun. Yeah, feel free to ask me any questions about the world as well. I'm happy to. I know it all. I've developed this world for over 16 years. I'm pretty familiar with it. I also love gushing about it, clearly. So yeah, feel free. Again, the book is available for purchase everywhere except for Indigo. And if you don't want to pay for it, solicit your library to put it in their library. If I get enough books across Canada in Canadian libraries, I get a little grant money. I don't know how much it is. I think it's like $100. It's nothing big, but it's still nice. I am going to work on trying to get them into libraries as well. Local bookstores, ask them to order it in for you if you don't want to pay for shipping. They'll obviously charge you, but I have no control over what they charge for the book, only what they paid for it. And they get a good discount, so. Any other questions for me? Oh, your library? Oh, thanks. Yeah. I have to contact a bunch of libraries, but the more Canadian libraries it's in, then I can get like a little Canadian author grant money. But Canada does not support their arts very much. Yeah. The Writers Union's all about that. But yeah, they're trying to get more funding for us. Considering how many taxes I freaking pay on all the books and stuff, they should give me some back. I'm not bitter, I swear. Alright, any other questions? No? Okay. Don't know what else to tell you guys. So I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I do want to get Waning of the Moon out in the next 2 years. Waning of the Moon gets dark. I mean, it goes through some rough stuff, and you learn how shitty the gods actually are. At least some of them. You also learn about Soul's heritage a little bit more, and Kurt's heritage a little bit more, and I do have a couple extra characters in there that I didn't intend to bring back, but betas were all about it. Betas were like, what happens to this character? I'm like, the character I never intended to see again? I didn't realize you liked her so much. So yeah, there's a little side quest in there for her. I'll let you, I guess, for those of you who haven't read it, it's Gabby. You will come across her somewhere in the middle. I think it's in the middle. Anyways, yeah, so she makes a appearance in book 2 just by reader request. So if you're reading this book and there's something you really, really want to see from book 2, because it's still in revisions, like, message me. Be like, I want this from book 2. I'm very open to readers' input because it's you guys who are enjoying the story, and I love writing about this world and these characters, so feel free. And I'm like, oh, you want more? I will give you more. So feel free to message me if you're like, hey, can I see more of this character in the books because I like them? Or what happens to this part of the world or whatever? Message me and I will probably incorporate it because you asked. Like I said, I kind of know where everything is going, and if I don't, that's amazing, and like, please stump me because then it'll make me work harder. Not that I need more hard work, but I like doing this stuff, so feel free. Another character popped up in there that people were really excited about. Another minor character I didn't intend to incorporate. So yeah, let me know. I know someone was like, one of my ARC readers asked if there would be more. She's like, oh, I really want to know what happens to Kurt. I'm like, you do. You get the point of view. And then, excitement ensued, so. Will I be published in other languages? For example, Australian Canine. No, not currently, because my publisher does not offer that because it is very expensive. I can print all around the world though, just in English. But eventually I'm hoping, language rights are actually a different right than the actual publishing right, which is what I've retained by publishing the way I have. If I do want to, if someone approaches me and says, I want to buy the language rights for translation for, these languages, they would do the translating and I would essentially sell them the rights to the novel for those translations. So, I mean, if someone offers to pay me to translate it, hell yes. But we'll see. It really just depends on my my success at this point. It could also happen well after the series is published, that completed, that someone wants to buy the language rights for the whole series as well. So it really depends, because then the publisher is buying the rights to do the translations and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's all about rights, copyrights. I should technically get a copyright certificate for my novel at some point too. It's in the mail. It's already been approved, so I'm official and people can't steal my work. And my family in Czech is really upset that it's not being translated into Czech. And I'm like, it's one of the smallest languages. And I would have loved to, but I can't translate. I can barely read Czech. I can speak it fluently, but I cannot read. Well, I can, just I have the reading comprehension of a 5-year-old. Or I guess not 5. I guess a first grader. So it's bad. Translation would not work. Yeah, my grammar is also in that language. It's bad. Yeah, it's all a very complicated process. Everything is about purchasing the rights. Same with movies or shows or whatever. So a lot of traditional publishers actually have rights for language translation and, book and movie and show adaptations all built into the initial contract. So a lot of the time, a lot of publishers will actually buy the rights for everything at once, so that they are the ones selling the rights or developing the rights for language translations, shows, any kind of adaptation. If they're thinking, usually for YA is more common that they'll also add in merchandise into the contracts. So that way, if the author wants a cut of the merchandise, they have to negotiate that before the book is even published. These are the things you learn when you study publishing in university. Although I studied 10 years ago, so I don't know how relevant my knowledge is now. But going through this whole process, I am glad I retained my rights, because that way if I choose to sell to a traditional publisher or anything like that, all I have to do, I just have a printing contract now. So the rights are mine. And unfortunately the cover is actually not mine. The rights to the cover belong to the publisher. So if I decide to go with a traditional publisher halfway through the series, the whole book's gonna change. The whole cover's gonna change. Which is why I want to try and self-publish this whole series on my own, with this same publisher, so that the covers remain together. Because I don't really want to do different covers, because that would suck. And I hate that when a series cuts halfway through and completely changes everything, frickin' ACOTAR or whatever we call it these days. Yes, I've read them, just in case you were curious. And I hate that they changed the cover for Silver Flame. That pissed me off. Yeah, so any other questions from anyone? I will answer whatever you like. Thanks for joining us, Cassidy. only 6 of us. Well, 7 if you count me. We've been here for a little while. I was trying to do it on TikTok as well, but apparently you need 1,000 followers for that. No, I'm not doing so hot on TikTok. Mostly because I don't post a lot of videos. I know I should post more videos of my face. I'm sure you all are dying to see it. Alright, so do I have any more questions from the group? Publishing, series, future content? Yeah, I mean, feel free to go look at or listen to the playlist. I made an official playlist because a friend of mine was like, excuse me, ma'am, you must do this. Thanks, Leah. Love your face, too. You guys want to look at the preview cover again? It's actually, I requested that the cover come out a little lighter than this print. So, in the mock-ups, it was really, really nice. But, as you can see, it gets a little dark in the bottom. I'm trying to bring it up here. So it gets a little dark, and you're losing a lot of there's actually Easter eggs hidden in here, in the water behind the swords and the stuff, but like it's really hard to see. The ink came out a lot darker than we expected, so I did ask them to lighten the cover for the actual printing, so that way you'll get a lot more of those. You'll be able to see those Easter eggs better. Like, it's really easy to see in bright sunlight, but I want you to be able to see them at all times. So after you read the book, go see if you can figure out what the Easter eggs are. I'm sure you can see them before you read the book and be like, okay, there's some stuff in there, but it'll make more relevance, like more sense once you've read it. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm answering questions nobody even asked. I've been here for almost an hour talking to you, lovely humans. And a couple of you missed my reading. Sorry about that. I read kind of fast though. Sorry. Any other questions for me? I've been here for almost an hour talking to you, lovely humans. And thanks for joining me. And it's been a lovely time with you folks. All right. Bye.